If you go back about 3 years or so, we were having conversations within OCR about producing a qualification that would be suitable for students post-16 who were not going to do A-level. And in a conversation with MEI, we discovered that they were having precisely the same conversations within their organisation. So we chose to work with them. We produced qualification which eventually became called Quantitative Methods. That was accredited by Ofqual just over a year ago, and it's been available for teaching from September of last year. And we thought, great, we've solved a big problem. We get more students to do more maths post-16. And then along came DFE and thought, actually this is quite a smart idea. Let's have something called Core Maths and try and convince everyone they ought to do it. And we were quite comfortable with that. We thought, that's fine, we're already there, we've got the qualification, we've done it. And then they put all sorts of constraints in place, not as many as you would find with most qualifications, but they decided that they wanted these qualifications to do certain things. So they wanted problem solving. They did at least see that it was aimed at the same cohort of students that we developed quantitative methods for. It's those who are not doing A-level. The view we had was that the qualification ought to support them in delivering or learning the subjects that they were doing in A-level courses, and that would prepare them adequately for university or for work. There's a separate view, which is that if you look at primary school teachers, many of them don't have the necessary mathematical background to enable students to pick up the basic skills that they need. And so this would be a qualification that was particularly useful for them because it would grow their mathematical understanding. Post-16, if you're reasonably able, you've perhaps given up maths at 15 in the intention of never doing any again, and then all of a sudden you need more later on in life. So the whole point behind the qualification was to support things other than maths. It's a maths qualification, but it's supporting all sorts of other things. When we put the course together, we took the view that we wanted specific skills, specific qualities, rather than what content do we need. Here, we must ram content down people's throats. So the first thing we wanted the students to have was a very clear understanding of mathematical concepts. And the key word there being understanding, not just regurgitate things, but to understand why things work, how they're linked together. We wanted them to be very fluent in doing everyday mathematics. So procedural skills were important. That's one of the things that these qualifications are aiming to deliver. It's not all level 3 content. Although these are level 3 qualifications, it's predominantly level 2 mathematical content. There is level 3 content in there, but it's about getting fluency from students. We want them to have the confidence to tackle problems, to look at something and think, what do I need to do? How can I tackle this problem? What mathematics do I know? How can I break the thing down? So again, we want to develop confidence, and the only way you can do that is by giving them problem-solving activities to engage in. And we want them to be able to demonstrate their understanding by being able to explain their mathematics to other people. So if you look at what the vision is for Core Maths as far as we're concerned, it's those things. It became very clear to us that one qualification wasn't going to do all of this work, because the DFE requirement was that you would have an awful lot of work that concentrated on problem solving as such, and an awful lot of work that would concentrate on statistical problem solving. We had a qualification which was quantitative methods. We thought was halfway there. It had elements of both. So in choosing to design our Core Maths qualifications, we thought we would use as a basis for each qualification the material that had been developed for quantitative methods, because it had all of these attributes to it. So we've produced one qualification which deals with real-life problem solving, and that's quantitative reasoning, and the second one which is statistical, quantitative problem solving. Okay, so what do the qualifications look like? First of all, they've both been accredited by Ofqual. We do know that each of the qualifications attract UCAS points, and as you can see from the slide, it's the standard points associated with an AS. For both of the qualifications, there's a common unit, so Introduction to Quantitative Reasoning. That's the material that we developed as quantitative methods. And then students can branch off either to do critical maths or statistical problem solving. The choice is theirs, and the two qualifications are listed for you. Okay, so what does the assessment look like? In each case, there's a common paper 1, Introduction to Quantitative Reasoning. That accounts for 50% of the assessment. 2-hour written examination, 72 marks. Paper 2, then, they go down one route or the other. Again, it's 50%, it's 2 hours, but in each case, it's a 60-mark unit. So whether they do quantitative reasoning or quantitative problem solving, it's purely written assessment. In quantitative reasoning, there is pre-release material. That pre-release material will focus on certain examination questions. It doesn't cover the entire question paper. The idea is that that material allows students to investigate what's in there before they ever get near the examination, that they become familiar with the concepts and the ideas that are included there, and that the examination questions can then be set using authentic problem-solving questions. For the second of the two qualifications, statistical problem solving, there is also pre-release material. It's different material. It's in the form of a large data set, and it's real live data. And the intention behind that is that students become familiar with all the problems associated with real live data, so erroneous values, things that simply don't work. But they also become comfortable with the idea that there's a huge data set there rather than a small sample with 5 items in it or something crazy. The idea behind this is that students will spend time during the course working with that data set so that by the time they get to the examination, they're fully familiar with all of what is in there. When it gets to the examination, half of the marks will be based on questions that come from that data set. Okay, so it's a very different approach to statistics. It's using real data for a real purpose and envisaging what might it be used for. We have tried talking to employers. We have tried talking to HE, and quite successfully. We have a maths forum at OCR which involves both employers and HE. They have been very, very positive and very enthusiastic about these qualifications. They've given us advice on what they ought to look like and how they ought to work. As far as I'm concerned, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to actually create some incredibly valuable and useful qualifications, and I just hope we take that chance. Thank you.